Let's talk about AI governance, which is, in simple terms, the way to make sure as an executive that your project is successful without getting exposed to your boss or other people. AI governance is your executive superpower to make sure the AI that is being developed in your enterprise is safe, scalable, and profitable. The inflection point is that when AI moves from just being a helpful tool to an enterprise capability and it touches sensitive workflows, decisions, and data, then it needs to be a reliable AI system, which you have responsibility with AI governance to make sure that it is like that so you are not exposed. So moving from just experimentation to enterprise AI is when you have important workflows, sensitive data, customer impact, or operational decisions. And your executive mandate is to use AI where it creates value under the controls that the organization can defend. A simple definition of AI governance is the system of rules, roles, controls, measurements that determine how AI is selected, built, used, monitored, and improved. So these are the four parameters. You got to have rules, what is allowed. You got to have roles, who owns it, who is responsible. You got to have controls, how to prevent and reduce the risk for your organization. And you got to have measurements, how value is proven. And the more you have all these ducks in place before you even start on the discussion level with your boss, the higher the probabilities of success for your project. These are the 7 questions the governance must answer. I will share this presentation, you don't have to take any screenshot. So what are the use cases? What are we allowed to use AI for? What's the risk appetite of your boss? What's the imagined ways that you should use AI in your organization? What is the data access? So does it need to access any sensitive data? Are we allowed to share customer data? Can the AI connect to our databases? What is needed for the AI to perform its job? What tools are approved? And this is a big discussion, both from an executive, legal, and IT point of view. What's the accountability? Who owns the output? In a sense that, is it customer facing? Is it internal? Questions that need to be answered a priori. What's the performance of the AI project? So how do we measure impact, quality, value created? Is there any human review? Is it required? Is it necessary for safety or not? And what's the monitoring capability? How do we watch it pre and post deployment? The question is not if we should use AI, that's a mandate. The question is where, with what controls, with what oversight, and how we will know it's working. So the governance fails when it is too narrow. All AI decisions are business decisions now. And we need to create the balance. Enough control to reduce risk, but also enough flexibility to innovate. And enough measurement to know what's working, what's not, and to be able to invest with confidence on those things that work. You cannot have only IT, you cannot have only legal, you cannot have only innovation. We cannot do crazy experiments without consequences. We cannot have the legal team come and say that you cannot share anything under any control. And you cannot have only IT that makes it everything very technical, tough to understand, and nobody communicate. We need to have a framework that both legal, executive, IT, and innovation teams are able to collaborate within specific boundaries so nothing dangerous happen, but at the same time, nothing stifles and removes the innovation because we are in a very competitive environment and we need to create value. So what's the 4 layers of an operating model that would help all those things come in place? It's the strategic, where AI would be deployed in a way that matters. The data, so what data can AI access? Because how can it provide value if it doesn't have the necessary data? But at the same point, how do we protect our data? The system, how our outputs are grounded, they're not hallucinating, they're not returning gibberish, they are not reducing the value with the outputs or confusing people or customers. And the operational aspect of it, how do we monitor our performance and we know that this thing works or not? So governance converts AI from scattered activity and chaotic development into a repeatable management system. So strategic governance is about, it's not about more AI, like push it down the organization without knowing any consequences or not having any risk discussions. The goal is better business outcomes through AI. So we should map our value pools. Where is our value created in our organization? Propose AI projects, see the strategic fit, but we also need to have an avoid list. Something, use cases which are distracting, very unsafe for the maturity level of our organization, or very premature and very moonshot-like. It's okay to have moonshots, but always with safety and not on the first effort to adapt to the AI era that we are. So the strategic part of the governance prevents our company from chasing random AI ideas and chasing our tails without having any impact. The data governance is very important. AI needs data to work well. But which data and with what protection mechanisms? We need to use approved AI tools. We do not upload any confidential data. What are the confidential data? We need to protect our enterprise grade environments, so even these coding agents cannot delete anything very important. We need to have backups for our data. And very importantly, we need to have audit trails for all the high risk workflows. Because our employees, when we ask them to use AI, they need clarity. They need boundaries. They shouldn't be guessing on their own. So it's worth investing some time of creating data governance for the use of AI in our company. Another important aspect is the model and system governance. So we should govern the AI system and see it systemically, not only the AI model. Because we need to know what data are inserted in, how are these retrieved, with what prompts. We should check them for safety and also protect them from people trying to misuse the prompts. Prompts are now like code. They should be versioned, they should be controlled. What model are we using and why? What protection mechanisms we have around the output of this, which are called guardrails, and then provide the output, knowing all the caveats that might arise and what we should do around those. We should have a map of our failure modes Maybe we cannot predict everything, but there should be a risk register, and anything new surfacing as a failure mode should be registered there. And we should have review rules. Who reviews this risk register? Who updates it? Who takes measures? Clear responsibilities. The operational governance is that AI must be monitored, should be monitored, because the world around it changes all the time. The deployment, after deployment, when we deploy something, we should ask who owns it, who monitors it, how are the errors reviewed, how can you report these issues and where, and how do we decide, how do we update or shut it down? What are the triggers that would initiate such an action? And this is where, with operational governance, AI moves from innovation project to strict operational capability. We should also have different layers of governance based on the risk level of our application. Low risk AI should have light controls. Medium risk AI, where we have business workflows, customer facing content, or some internal analysis important for our decisions as a company, we should have validation, check mechanisms, and clear ownership. And then there is the high risk AI, when the AI is dealing with regulated decisions, legal, clinical, hiring, or safety. And then for these types of AI, we should have strict oversight and auditability, which is something that you don't hear often, is not discussed. And auditability, I believe, is the future of responsible AI development and deployment in organizations. If everything is high risk, the innovation might be lost. If everything is low risk, then we cannot gain value out of all these models. We need to find the balance, and we need to have proper ways to categorize our applications. So now we come to how are we protecting ourselves with all these measures? The boardroom or our boss should be asking these questions, or might be asking those questions, and we need to have answers for those. Where is the value of the AI project we are responsible for? Which use cases are live? Which ones are experiments? What data is being used? And how do we know that these data are safe? What is the level of sensitivity of this data? What are the main failure modes that we've seen, how we dealt with them, and that might happen, and what we will do if they do? How are the outputs checked for safety, the model outputs, for safety, for business value? Who is accountable for this and each project? And what are the stop rules? What would cause us to pause or modify our system? So we should move the conversation from potential excitement with side effects to AI accountability. And this is what governance is. Governance is how AI survives contact with reality. And how do we make sure as executives that we survive and provide value without exposing our system to potential mishaps that would expose us as executives. Governance is not stifling or stopping innovation. Governance is what allows innovation to scale. So do you know where AI is being used inside your company? Do you have a governance system to scale it safely? Let's talk about it.